You, Minister Sikorski, in the United Nations, told the Russian delegation, you have been warned. How have we warned them, and are we now feared?
Well, we warned them to stop this escalation of the hybrid war in the form of breaching our airspace. I think we should also now be careful with our ships and aircraft near Russian borders, because we don't want confrontations. But really, the moment was dramatic, but I restated the right of every sovereign nation to protect its territory. Let me give you an example. When I was defense minister, and this was not that long after 9/11, we passed a law, like many countries, on the procedures for shooting down a hijacked airliner. So as defense minister, I had to carry special codes that would identify me as me, so that if something comes across the Polish border, we try to, intercept it by our fighters, but ultimately we would not permit it to hit Warsaw. And then you have to take the decision to have it shot down. And it's the same with air forces. There are procedures, and ask the Air Force for details. But you intercept, which is to say you level with it. You show them weapons. You ask them to turn back. Even before that, we have direct lines even with unfriendly countries. Our air forces can communicate, and usually we know when something is even approaching our airspace. But if they don't obey and they go further and further, then of course you do what you have to do. Imagine Cuban MiGs over Florida flying over Mar-a-Lago, and you have a good picture of what...
Have you suggested to Donald Trump this idea?
Of what would... Well, I'm sure what he would do. The Russian idea of escalate to de-escalate comes from the theory of fighting a nuclear war. You use overwhelming power to stun the elites of the target country to essentially capitulate. And when you look at the various domains, the Russians are not actually capable of doing it. At sea, Ukraine alone, without a navy, defeated Russia in the Black Sea. Grain and Ukrainian exports are reaching international markets through the Bosphorus. In the Baltic, particularly after the accession of Finland and Sweden, it's Russia that has a problem. We have enough anti-ship missiles to sink the entire Baltic Sea Navy. In the air, if the Russians took on NATO, we have an overwhelming advantage. And on the ground, Russia is not capable of launching a combined arms offensive in Ukraine, let alone against all of Europe. They're still fighting in Donbass 10 years after they've started. So actually the only domain in which they could do it is nuclear. But they can't do it not just because of the Americans, but because I believe India and China have read them the riot act. So no, they can't do it. Time, I think, is now playing against Vladimir Putin and for Ukraine, and the sooner they realize, the better for world peace.